And we are live. Man, we haven't been live in a little bit, but we got a great guest tonight here on the Everything Kayak Fishing podcast, hosted by the Fishing with Gramps YouTube channel, presented by American Legacy Fishing, Grande Bass, First Contact Tungsten, and Fish Texas Kayak Trailers. Good grief, that's a mouthful, but hey, we thank you for all the support to the great partners we have here with the Fishing with Gramps YouTube channel and Everything Kayak Fishing podcast. But enough of all that. Let's get to tonight's guest. Gene, it seems like it's been forever since I've seen you, but I've seen you more. I've seen you more this month than either one of us have seen our wives.
So true. Holy cow, so true.
Oh, it's been a crazy October. We haven't been home hardly at all. And for those who actually stuck around and fished another week after the Knucklehead, them guys are just getting home after like 3 weeks on the road. So it's been kind of crazy, but let's back up a little bit and do a little recap, because if you guys didn't know, Gene and I and a bunch of teams gathered together around Guntersville, Lake, Wheeler. I don't think anybody went fish Wheeler for the second Hero Cup. That's the season finale, if you will, of the Kayak Bass Fishing Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series Championship, which we call the Hero Cup. And this year, well, we had a couple more teams get closer in the tops to bring home, have a veteran bring it home. But if that wasn't going to happen, EJ's a pretty cool cat to send it off to. So when you can have like an Olympian, take home the championship, that was pretty good too. But tell us a little bit about your team that you took the Knucklehead, and give us a little recap onto that, and then we'll get on to the fun stuff.
Well, it was a pretty cool deal. So my team consisted, of course, of me and then Damon Henderson, my protege.
Hammer.
Former Rookie of the Year, KBF Rookie of the Year, and then now he's the Angler of the Year. And then Michael Musgrove, my travel partner.
Yep.
And both these guys had to win a tournament to do it. So I wasn't, and I just let them go fishing. I didn't help him hardly at all. I just gave Michael a place to stay when he came up here to fish Rocky. And then, oh gosh, I can't remember everybody's name. The other two guys, one guy was from South Carolina, won the very first one of the year. And then the young kid from Jacob from Texas. He's just a super fan and really, really wanted to win one to be able to come fish with us. So it was really cool to have him there and be able to help him. It was his first live tournament too. So to be able to help him get a little bit more comfortable with live tournaments and that kind of stuff. And so it was just really neat. Fishing was great. We chose to fish in Browns Creek, and it was full of fish, not a whole lot of giants, but I had figured something out by pre-fishing. How much did you see any giant crawfish like at the boat ramps and stuff when you were putting in early in the morning?
Not really. I had a few people talk about them here and there, but I didn't. I always kind of try to look to see what's the bait fish jumping around, and then what are the crawfish looking like too.
So there was I was putting in the very first day of practice, and there was 3 of them on the boat ramp. Of course, the boat ramp was flooded. I was way up north, and they were pulling water and pushing water, and the up north floods pretty quick when Nickajack is pumping water out full force. And so there was water up above the boat ramp, and there were 3 crawfish and 2 little dogs that were from the neighbor's house playing around with these crawfish. And this neighbor walked by and said, "Yeah, we caught 165 of them last night. Had a crawfish boil," and so on and so forth. So I kept seeing them on all these boat ramps. Well, the crawfish were spawning. This is the time of the year where they make babies, and then they lay their eggs, and the eggs hatch in the spring. And so that was kind of a light bulb. I kind of kept that in the back of my head. And then, so when it came down to figuring out how we were going to fish, I told my guys, I said, "You can fish any way you want to. I'll give you an area that has a lot of fish. You can go find your own area. You can do whatever, but just make sure you're throwing something up against the bank first thing in the morning until that sun hits the water. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to catch the biggest fish of the day." So Damon, first day, Damon caught like a 22 or 20 giant one anyway.
Yeah.
And then the second day, Jacob caught a giant one on a frog, super shallow. I actually gave him the frog rod and the frog and everything. He said, "Take this." and he was able to catch one. It was a white frog. It wasn't a crawfish color or anything. Just that's where the bass were. They were cruising the bank super shallow, trying to catch those crawfish as they were coming back into the water.
Yep.
So, and these weren't little crawfish. They were big crawfish. They were the size of your hand.
Oh, huge.
Giants. Okay. And so it was pretty cool. So that was our big fish pattern. And then we just pulled out and fished a little bit offshore and fish offshore grass and stuff like that. First day I caught a bunch on a frog first thing and nothing real big. And then second day was a grind, but it was a fun grind. We were catching fish, just we couldn't upgrade. So
yeah, that second day was just really kind of strange. Now let me ask you this, because I was goofing around in Brown a little bit. Of course, I had run back to the ramp that's kind of like halfway back where there were pads last year, and we lost a couple of big frogfish there. And then our buddy Alex went and caught them that Friday before. Mm-hmm. And of course, I roll back there, and Tammy Sanchez is rolling around, and no pads. And then I'm heading back out. But now, did any of your guys fish like all the way out by the bridge that leads back there? Yeah. Those okay, because there were some spots back in there I should have gone to. I changed my game plan last minute and took off to another spot farther north, because a lot of people were really catching good fish farther north, and we started out across on the other side of the river from Seabold where everybody was. Yeah. And for me, it didn't turn out for me like I really thought it would. I mean, I knew I had wind blowing into me. I was on this perfect grass flat that hadn't been sprayed, 5-6 feet of water. I expected to have my arm broke by everything, but best laid plans. And so it was just one of those deals where I had to scramble. I mean, I caught several fish, just no big fish. I had the small fish for the day. So second day, I ended up going back into spring, because it's like, go with what and I caught an 18 to lead the team that day, and then I lost a giant under bigger than the frogfish that I caught back there in practice, under one of those docks where Garrett likes to fish. Yeah. And you know how some people have the docks that just have stuff hanging down, like, because they want to keep people from in there. I skipped a wacky under there, and I bent my pole. I mean, it was like tip was touching reel there for a minute. And then he ran the line up against some of that stuff, and the next thing I know, my rod's not moving, and it's still keeping the tension. I was like, he managed to, but I mean, that's fishing. I mean, it happens. Yep. But
keep telling yourself it was a drum. Just tell yourself it was a drum. Just
I mean, it could have been. But when he jumped under the dock and I couldn't see him, it sounded like somebody dropped like a cannonball in the water.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that's a big fish.
I in pre-fish, I skipped under a dock, and the fish jumped out of the water and knocked himself out on the dock. And I brought him in.
I could have used some of that luck.
Yeah, just temporarily knocked. He was only 19 and a half incher, but he, just ka-dunk. And I'm like, is he still on there? And I just bring him right on out. And he's just flapping like this. And he didn't die, but he came to.
He's like one of those winter fish. I don't want to play. I don't want to play.
Oh my gosh. Yep. I had a buck do that once. I was hunting on the ground and had this little buck, and I hunt thick stuff when I was little. Yep. And I had this little buck come and stop 5 yards in front of me and see me and turn around and run directly away from me and ran square into a tree and fell down. And then got up and ran off a few seconds later. I was laughing so hard there wasn't anything I was going to do. It was just hilarious.
But I mean, Knucklehead once again, and I love the fact too, because a lot of times a lot of the teams have their favorite guys that generally start out the season, but then you get one or two that are just kind of like fans, and that makes it really cool. Yep. So that those who want to come fish with their favorite, YouTube anglers and whatnot, they can. And it makes it really cool. And I tried to make it too, so that where even if somebody couldn't win a trip, I had Duke print out some trophies, and, I was doing them out to third place just for those guys who wanted to support the cause for our charities that we all support. Yeah. And then, all of that too, to make it more than just the Hero Cup, but to really have some fun with it too. But everybody, I mean, I love the meet and greet, where, really all the teams can get together. It seems like last year it was so much like the captain's meeting, and then it was time to go strategize. Whereas this year we got to get all the teams together, all the people, and you know, where we went was pretty cool. And you know, that was really cool with Chad doing a bunch of different giveaways like that, kind of getting everybody together. That's really what it was all about. I mean, that made this year's Knucklehead that much better. And then next year it's going to be total mayhem.
Yep.
with the changes he's planning on bringing it to. But then again, that'll afford more opportunities for those folks who watch everybody's channels to come and fish and enjoy an awesome lake like that too. So I thought that was really cool. But I have no idea where EJ and them were fishing. I saw him at one of your favorite ramps when he was out pre-fishing, and knowing him, that's probably where he fished.
Yeah.
Because every time I posted a picture of it, Joe's like, "Stop posting pictures there. Get out of there. Stay off my fish." Because we all know Joe likes to fish up there too.
Yep.
But you know, it's just one of those fun things, you know. But Guntersville, it's funny because however you like to fish, it offers everything. If you like to punch mats through frogs, you know, fish in the river, fish off the river, and like the backwaters, that's more like it sets up more like a lake or pond that people might be used to. That's the great thing about it. And realistically, I mean, you can find giants everywhere. I mean, any one cast can be your PB because, hey, it finally happened to me. You know, I haven't broke a catch PB like that in a long time. And to do it on a frog was even funnier. But, you know, they absolutely, and I'm still like, I don't know, 6 tournaments behind on what I'm doing. So these guys have been sitting here waiting patiently. We'd love to see this. Come on now, hurry up. But now that we're done kind of playing around and doing all the stuff, but and immediately after that, they had the championships there at Guntersville, and then we all ended up down at Caddo Bistineau for the final Bassmaster event of the season. And we were talking about this a little bit before. You haven't fished any Bassmasters all year. Tell us what was appealing about this one, and how the FLUKEMASTER ended up coming out of retirement just one more time.
So I've been messing around with. I fished a couple of Georgia Bass Nation events, the kayak events. I just enjoyed it. Did mainly because Michael and Damon talked me into it. and so just to fish with them and to have fun, we were doing that. Well, I qualified for the state championship through my second one there, and the state championships on Lake Hartwell in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, me and Hartwell, it's a love-hate relationship. I love it. Loves to make me hate it is basically what it is. And so I was like, well, and I started looking at the national, you know, the trail, and I was like, man, they're going to Bistineau and Caddo, and I love Caddo. Absolutely love Caddo, especially in the fall. Me and Jordan fished the KBF National Championship a couple of years ago, and we were catching 40, 50 fish a day, and we finished in the top. We finished 25th and 27th. That in that tournament, I just like, man, we just got to do it. So me and Michael traveled up there in August, late August, first couple of days of September before it was put off limits, and we fished Caddo, and I marked 400, 500, 600 waypoints, and spent days scanning and zigzagging and doing all kinds of cool stuff, and then so we were planning on fishing Caddo, and so I got an Airbnb 30 minutes northwest of Caddo, and about 5 days, maybe even a week after that, I realized that Bistineau was in play too. And I knew Bistineau has a drawdown every year. They draw it down 9 feet, and that's a lot of water to exit out of a lake. And I called Michael. And I was like, I might have screwed up. I said, we might end up fishing Bistineau, and our Airbnb is an hour and a half from Bistineau, 80 miles.
Yeah, because my B&B was like right below where you were staying. We were we were west. We were middle west of the lake, and I was like, oh yay.
Yep. And so anyway, that's just kind of how it worked out. And then and so when I got there, first day of practice, or the first 2 days, Michael was still fishing Bassmaster or KBF stuff on Guntersville. Yep. So I went and I got a campsite at Bistineau State Park, and I said, look, I'm just going to fish these 2 days real hard, see what happens, and then I'll make the decision. Well, first day I caught like 80, without, you know, and it wasn't even a full day. I caught like 89 inches. And the second day I caught like 90 inches. And I'm like, and then so the third day I went to Caddo to check all my spots and I caught 72 inches.
Yeah.
And that was, oh no, I caught less than that because I only had caught 4 fish all day.
Oh,
And I
okay.
went from sun up to sundown and only caught 4 fish.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, Caddo's out. I'm not even going to go try to find fish in the grass. I'm just going to go to Bistineau and commit to Bistineau the rest of the time. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. So, I mean, I stayed over on Caddo and I just hit different ramps and, you know, kind of poked around. And of course, first time there, you know, especially when you're going kind of solo, you're just trying to, it's like, oh, there's a tree, there's a tree, there's a tree there. You know, looking for those spots. Now, sadly, it wasn't until like with hour and a half to go on day 2 that I found a little something, you know, and this would be like, if I ever come back here again, at least I now can say I have a little something. But man, that place was just wild to try to break down in just a couple of days, trying to hit a couple of different ramps, you know, each time out, everything looks the same. I mean, you find great grass here and there, but some there's fish on, and I don't know what the weirdest thing was. I noticed this on one of the days, sitting there waiting for lines in, and fish just busting everywhere. And then at 7:20, it stopped. I'm like, come on, man. I made like 3 casts.
Yeah. First cast was a little bit late for that tournament. I wish it had been about 20 minutes or 15 minutes earlier.
Yeah. I mean, because I was like, I know I can't start casting, but come on. I mean, just they're right here. Yeah. And then it died. And then I lost the fish that was probably a 22 or 23 on a frog, like early, just didn't get the hooks in them. But then it was just run around like a madman trying to find fish. And then I was like, you know, I need to, day 2, I changed it up. I was like, I need a narrower space of water. I'd only gone to Bistineau the one time, and that was goofing around on Friday before the derb. And I'm like, I'll get lost. I mean, once I understood what the channel, because we put in at the dam and I worked my way north. And you know, once I kind of said, okay, this is the channel, and you don't want to run out of the channel, because when you do, you get in the clay that I swear it's what they built every adobe Mayan Incan stone, what that mud, you get that crap on your boat or your paddle, it ain't coming off.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, that was some, and so I was like, yeah, and because part of me after day 1, I was like, I need to go to Bistineau, but I mean, I figure everybody's going to be over there too. But I mean, I think it was one of those things. If you know, because you know, I knew Abby was fishing somewhere on Caddo, and I knew Jody was fishing with him. It's just wherever they were was magic, at least for a day. You know,
share that picture right there. You see it?
Yep.
That's the boat ramp I put in at every day.
Jeez, Lynn wasn't kidding.
And so you had to pull your I could back the kayak in. There was a little bit of gravel underneath that mud, so I could back the kayak in about right there. And then you've got the blowhole that's right back here from power loading boats. And so I could drop my kayak into that blowhole and get it turned around, and then it was silt all the way out to about right here.
Wow. And
so I had hip waders, and I would push my kayak all the way out, and then I'd jump in and slowly paddle it out till I got to the open lake every day. And it was great. I mean, it was a challenge, and you know, but having hip waders made all the difference in the world. It was it was something. So
yeah, because my buddy Mike, who I was fishing with, he was like, him and his father-in-law were already way up there, and they'd put it at the dam. He's like, well, just drive up to this ramp that's, you know, where that is, and then hop in there. Of course, he hadn't seen that. He was just fishing out from there. But I ran into Lynn Yester and Alex Miller, who had just left that ramp, and she's like, hey, you stay right here and just work your way north.
Yeah. And that's it. I saw a lot of people come in, look at it, and drive away. Come in, look at it, and drive away. You know, and
that was Lynn and Alex on Friday for sure.
Yeah, even the people who were experienced putting in there were amazed that I was able to get my big, heavy, over-rigged kayak
Yeah.
in and through there. It just took a little work, you know, and it was worth it for
But
sure.
I'll tell you what, though, we got to pay compliment and comments on your hard work, and you're in a little bit better shape than you probably would have been a year or 2 years ago trying to run some stuff like that too. So
Yep. Yep.
kudos on you for putting in the time, effort, and work. We've both been on a journey for we've probably lost about the same. I just had a farther starting point than you did.
Yep.
But again, it's like I told you when I saw you, last week, that my goal by spring or summer is to be down there under 200 with you, because I'm going to put that work and effort in over the winter time again
Yep.
to keep doing what we're doing, because it's not going to get any easier as we get older. I've probably got you by a couple years, but not that many. So yeah, the older we get and the longer we want to play this game, the staying in shape and getting in shape
Yep.
is a key part of that too.
Yep.
Now,
You know,
speaking about,
and the PWR draft's so much shallower than the SS.
yeah,
And that really made a difference in that situation. I mean, and it doesn't look like it, but it really does. It just is a lot easier to paddle on top of mats like that,
yeah,
because of that. It's got a little bit of rocker up front, so it kind of rides up on top of mat. So it wasn't too bad.
yeah. And speaking of that too, because I know we wanted to talk about it a little bit too, but I mean, the power has been such a game changer this year
Yeah.
from any other kayak I've been in the past. And I know you've been with Bonafide for a while, and I'm coming from Old Town. But I think my brother and I were both talking about that, is that if a guy was going to own one single kayak, that PWR 129 can do it all.
Yep.
And I've had it rigged for the bow mount and playing in the lakes and stuff like that. And I put the NK 300 on for the rivers, and even learning at some of the places I was at in Guntersville, being able to chop through some of the thicker grass that was still there by setting my motor up, just under the surface of the water. You really enabled me to kind of get and fish in places in ways that I hadn't in the past. And it's been such an incredible, and I'm in this conundrum, because we know the XTR 130 is coming, and I've seen Chad out there playing with it, and in just in the last couple of days, and part of me at one time was saying I might have an XTR and an RVR 119, but I mean, who knows? I may just have to have a whole fleet of all of them, because I mean, it's so fun to just build a boat the way you want it, however you want it too. So
See,
what's your
my dilemma is that I had so much input into the PWR,
yeah,
personally, from my rigging experiences and things like that. The PowerLink plates, the removable plates. I know they ended up on the Native first, but those were my idea,
yeah,
that I had talked to Hans about a year or two before that, because I used to do that with my aluminum boats when I rigged them. I used to build all electric aluminum boats. I'd buy an old
okay,
trackers and then gut them out and rebuild them and sell them in the Atlanta area for all the electric only lakes. And
oh
I
yeah,
used to put the plates, sacrificial plates, so if I screwed up and I ran wire the wrong way and stuff like that, I could replace them easily.
yeah,
And that was that with that idea. And then the steerable, the foot pedal steering rudder, the hands-free steering.
oh yeah,
I've been doing that with my SS for 3 years,
yep,
and it was okay, but the plastic rudder on the SS was really flexible, so you didn't get a whole lot of response.
yeah.
And so that's just, it was, so the PWR is just, it's my baby. It's what I love to fish out of. It does exactly what I want it to do.
Yep.
And so I'm going to have to stare at the XTR for a while before I decide how I'm going to rig it, because my everything boat is the PWR. So
Yeah. Now, did you ever end up putting on like a wider rudder, or are you still using the one that came with it?
oh no, I've got an aftermarket aluminum rudder
Okay, I
that I'm
wondered.
running. And actually for Bistineau, because I am lowering it into, and there's rocks and stuff like that, I have two aluminum rudders. I have a standard size and I have an extra large. I actually swapped them out for Bistineau so I wouldn't cause any damage to that rudder or to the boat, having an
And is that
oversized
the one
rudder.
that is that the company that we see Catch talking to Duke
Yeah,
at Catch
yeah,
talking about? Okay.
it's a buddy of Duke's. So
Yep. He just sent me the link to that too, because I was thinking, I'm because Yeah, because part of me wants the XTR, but I still want to see what the drop down rudder system is going to look
Oh,
like.
it's huge, dude. The
Oh, good.
difference in going from the plastic rudder to the aluminum one, even if it's the standard size,
Yeah,
your response time is really, really fast, and you really get to steer. That's all I did for most of the tournament, was to steer my, set the XI3 on 5 and steer back and forth around these trees
with your
so I could get a cast on both sides. And being able to do that and get as many casts in as I could was critical.
yeah, because a lot of people, I guess, they think when we have bow mount trolling motors that we're sitting there playing with the front remote with our hands all the time. No, we set
Right.
it straight.
Yep.
And
And
we
then
use our
steer.
feet to steer, and that's the game changer that the
Yeah, and
PWR
then the new ball bearing
dude.
pedals. I was supposed to get one last week or before the Caddo event, but the hurricane, and they had to shut down, so I
Yeah,
wasn't able to get one. So.
I was looking. Abby's got those in his boat, and I was like, dude, you got the. He's like, oh yeah, and I was sliding those. I got home and I called my brother. I was like, bro, as soon as these hit the market, I'll have them in the Power and the XTR when I go that, when I go that way too. But I mean, those things, it's a completely night and day.
And to let people know, those are going to be aftermarket. If they were to
Yeah.
come standard on your boat, they would actually have to charge even more than having them aftermarket.
Yeah.
So
and I'll say this for anybody who's looking at like the XTR, figure out and be planning how you want to motorize it.
Yeah.
Because that'll make a difference when you go to order. Because if you're going to put a bow mount on, there's going to be an aftermarket rudder kit that Hans says I think is supposed to be similar to like what they had on the SS 127. You'll definitely want the ball bearing steering stuff, and so you'll have to run that stuff too. Along with, they'll offer a plate if you want to put your trolling motor on the front. If you decide to go like the Torpedo or the Newport route, little bit different. You'll still want those sweet steering controls, but rigging that will probably be a little easier because almost everything else you'll need will come with whichever one of those motors you get. Me and Jeremy like running the Newports because we like supporting, KBF with the Dakota Lithium as well. But be planning a little bit. Whereas if you're undecided between the Power and the XTR, man, the XTR is pretty much, you can throw an XI3 on it with just a plate and use the built-in rudder. It's not as responsive as the aftermarket.
Yeah.
But you can still, do a lot of stuff with that PWR.
I think because it's not going to be my tournament boat, I think I'm going to put both on there. I'm going to put a Newport on the back and an XI3 up front.
Yeah. So you're going to keep your Power for doing tournaments and whatnot?
Oh yeah, that's so rigged up for tournaments. Yeah. There's no reason to try to get a second boat and try to make that decision.
Especially with Lake Fork coming up too. So let's hop back to the lakes and the Bassmaster events that was going on. Tell us about kind of like your first day. You decided to go to Bistineau because you were catching. Now, I guess before I got down there, some of the scoops and you can't get competitive. You can't get information for people who aren't competing after certain points in time. So the only people I was talking to were people signed up. I think I talked to you. I talked to Mike Ridenauer, who I got to know really well. He fished on my Knucklehead team. Turns out he's one of these up and coming hammer West Virginia slayers. He's can't remember if it's Matt Ball or Jody Queen's cousin, but either way, dude is a hammer coming out of West Virginia. I think he won the Challenge Series there 2 years in a row. And then I go to find out later, I'm sitting 11th in the Bassmaster AOY points. Okay. So I got a guy who's put a lot of time into researching and fishing and doing all this stuff too. But he was kind of telling me the same thing a lot of people were. They said there's like more fish in our friend Merlin Hammer here in Indiana. There's more of those good 18s and 19s in Bistineau, but there's a lot of giants in Caddo.
Yeah. The saying is you can't, if you have a choice between the two, it's going to be a top 10 at Bistineau, but it's going to be one in Caddo.
Yeah,
is typically what everybody was saying. It's just going to be one in Caddo because somebody's going to find the land of the giants and going to wail on them.
And that
You know,
first day, and
and
it's
it
like
happened. Yep.
when you hear about Abby and Jody's first week, Jody puts up 103 inches in and then Abby's they put up like 100 and some inches every day in practice. And then day one, and then it kind of ran a little bit dry towards the end there on day two. But I mean, just when you see that kind of, 21, 21, 20, 22, 20, coming from the same two guys, it's like, where are you boys at? I just want one of them, you know? But I
Yep.
mean, but that makes it cool too. But, you were sitting in 10th place after day one, but you still had to feel good about that too, knowing that you had some good quality fish. And if anybody slips up, if you keep that good average up, that
Well,
seemed to,
I played the long game.
yeah,
Day one, I had 98 and a half inches or 98 and a quarter, something like that. But I didn't beat my fish up. They were being beat up by a bass boat club tournament of all
yeah,
locals. I literally only hit 2 of the spots in my area of where the fish were concentrated. And one of the spots, the bass boaters were on the opposite side. They got to watch me catch, how many, 9 fish in 10 casts. Making the same cast over and over and over again. And once I did that, once I wore that school out, I wanted to make sure I wore them out before I left. So those guys, when they slid over, they weren't going to catch the snot out of them.
come in behind you. And then,
Yeah. Because that was going to happen. I didn't care.
yeah, I
But
mean, if they're looking to like, there's Gene Jensen.
yep.
If he's fishing there, I need to be fishing there and understand why.
Yeah, and I think I had 95 inches then, or by then, and I just left and went out to the river channel and started running the river channel. And I had Emily Hyman.
Oh yeah,
Is she was following me that day with a camera. She wanted to work on a portfolio for she wants to start taking pictures and that kind of stuff. Well,
okay.
she's been doing it for 10 years, but she's working on her portfolio and she's been doing weddings. She's like, I want to do something different. I said, well, come, so she asked if she could come and follow me around and take pictures. And so I ran that poor girl and her SS around. We probably went 8 miles after that, running the river. And then we had a shortcut cut through back to my area that we had, and I caught maybe one more there. And then at the end of the day, we went back out to the river that was close to the launch, and I caught 2 upgrades, like 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch upgrades. So, and it was all throwing the same bait, the same little spinner bait. And then, so I finished in 10th, and I was like, yeah, I might be able to move up in the top 5 the next day, but somebody's going to have to falter.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it was going to end up the way it ended up. It's just crazy. So
yeah, because we were talking about this before, your goal, of course, your goal always is to win when you're fishing one of these things, but your goal was to finish in the top 5 to qualify for fork.
Yep.
So like you said, playing the long game, it kind of afforded you the opportunity to, you don't have to slay them every day. You just have to be consistent both days. And it seems like I've learned one thing about tournament fishing, especially 2-day formats. Most people have a good day one or the first or the second day, but it's hard sometimes to string them together back to back. But when I was watching what Scotch was doing right there, because he was right there about the same with you, and then day 2, it was like, well, I took that good, solid finish from day 1 and smashed them on day 2.
Scotch and I literally started the first day 30 yards from each other.
Yeah.
And I did that because I told Emily to wait till everybody launched and then get her boat ready and come in the water. And I was already out there, and I needed her to find me, because if I had left and went to my main spot, she would have a hard time finding me.
Okay.
And Google Maps was acting up and stuff like that. But I knew that 119-incher that was there. I knew it was there. I had found it the day before. I caught 3 off of that spot, and it was only an 8 by 10 foot spot. And Scotch was coming through the trees one way, and I was coming around following the river channel, and that's where we started. And I told myself, I said, if he decides to fish that spot, I'm just going to sit here and wait, and then I'm going to leave, because he's going to catch the fish that's there.
Yep.
But he came out 10 yards on the other side of that spot and took a right and went away from it. And I'm like, okay, I'll sit right there and see if I can catch that fish. So, tournament started. I slid into that little spot. I made 5 casts. He hit it 3 of the first 5 casts and kept coming closer to my boat and closer to my boat, wasn't committing to the bait. So the last cast, I knew where he was because of where he hit last, and it was 5 feet in front of the boat. So I reeled it up to it, and I just stuttered and killed that spinnerbait, and he took the whole thing in, and I set the hook and caught that one fish. And then Emily showed up, and I left.
Yep.
And so
she's one of our Freedom Squad crew. So,
yeah.
you know, I'm when you said, I was like, well, no wonder I couldn't, you know, of course she couldn't say anything because, you know, she lives in the area and, you know, wasn't in the dirt.
It wasn't in the Derby. She knew all the rules. And that's what, when I told Steve that I was going to have the cameraman follow me, I said, she's a competitor. You don't have to, she knows not to have, you know, and she's a police officer herself. So, you know, she knows not to have fishing stuff in the boat. She's not going to give me any advice because she doesn't. She's like, I don't have any to give. Why would I? You know,
yeah. She had the best setup when we were at Knucklehead because she actually slept in her camper. She's got a car top like you do in our driveway. And so Freedom Squad, you know, she would pop everything down, and then they would go fish, come back, set up camp, and then, you know, do it all again the next day too.
Yeah,
but you know, she's awesome. Love having her around. So I look forward to seeing whatever pictures.
She got some great pictures. Good.
That's
gosh.
Awesome.
Yeah. I needed some skinny pictures anyway. I don't have.
Yeah, you do. You look real skinny holding that trophy up nice and high.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I don't know how much you can divulge or not because, you know, it's fishing there and whatnot too. But what kind of things were you looking for? I mean, if you say you find an 8x10 spot, was it someplace where the water had drawn down and the fish were kind of like stuck there? Was it something that you knew that they would be related to that the casual angler would not notice? I mean, one thing I found was like in a land of 1 billion trees, and especially over there with the receding water, you know, I saw a lot of guys sitting off current or channel bends and, you know, things like that, looking for, you know, probably those little points and spots where bass may push up. But if you're off and back into the stuff, because like I said, I've only been there once, and when I see like how much is totally out of the water, and I roll by and I see somebody with one of those cattle feeders that's got brush hooked up, connected to it all the way around. It's like, well, there's somebody's brush pile 4 feet out of the water. You know, what are you kind of looking for targeting, or is that just experience of being there before and kind of knew what you wanted?
Well, it's something that I figured out over the last 3 years of fishing there. And then Bistineau and kind of helped put it all together in a you know, it's still a theory to me, but everything made sense. You know, I was looking for something that on my side scan, I was scanning a lot. I was scanning a lot more than I was fishing even in practice. And that's why, you know, 90 inches was really good because I wasn't really fishing hard. I was doing more scanning than I was fishing. But I was looking for bluegill beds. But listen to me, JT, that the bluegill beds weren't bluegill beds because that lake is 9 feet low. Those bluegill in the summertime did not spawn 9 feet deep. You can't tell me they spawned 9 feet deep. So I figured out through 2 years ago and now, and then going back and checking old waypoints and things like that, bass are making these things that are on these swamp lakes. They're fanning out these areas that look very similar to bluegill beds, but the beds are a lot bigger. And they're still close together. You see the ones out in that deeper water that are scattered. You mean these little potholes that are scattered around.
Yeah, it looks like somebody made a bomb run down the runway.
Yep, catfish make those. Walleye make them in some lakes. You know, it just depends. But these are closer together, like a sunfish or a bluegill, and a bass is a sunfish would make. And you could tell from side scan which ones were occupied and which ones weren't. The ones that were occupied were really sharp. They were clean. They weren't, I wouldn't say clean, but on the side scan, they were just well formed. And then if the bass moved out and weren't there, the current would polish the edges of them off. And you could see that on side scan, and they would look more polished. And then you knew there weren't any fish there. And then a lot of times they were 18 to 20 inches deep. And so the fish would actually be in the hole and you couldn't see them on side scan. So I was looking for those, but I was looking for specific sizes and in specific areas. And that's why I knew that 19.5 incher was there because it was an 8x10 area that had about 12 of these holes in it.
Yep.
And I knew that if there was going to be a bass anywhere on that entire river lip, it was going to be right there. There was another one further up that Scotch fished past, but I didn't go up there and fish it.
Okay.
But
Now, were you scoping it all, or just side scan was
no,
all you
just
really
side
needed?
scanning. I scoped a little bit when I got uncomfortable. I was like, I'd start scoping, and I'm like, this isn't helping, and I'd put it up, and then
Yep.
a couple hours later, I'd get frustrated, and then do it again, and it was just,
Yep.
I didn't need it.
Yep.
But these beds, they were just scattered around. Some of them were in specific places that I'd rather not talk about, and then some,
I get it.
and then you could literally tell what size bass were on them by the size of the beds.
I got you.
The size of each individual hole. And so I would scan around looking for certain sizes, and that comes from years of using electronics.
Yeah.
And Lowrance side scan, it used to be Humminbird side scan was the best there is. Lowrance side scan is now top notch. It is it's so good.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do much settings. You have to understand what you're seeing at what size and how far out and that kind of stuff. But my gosh, it's so good.
Now, speaking of which, let's do a little plug here too. If you're newer to the electronics, Gene does offer, guide trips, and it's not always about, we were talking about this before, it's not always about catching the biggest fish when you go on a guide trip with somebody. But if you want to get a better understanding and a head start, spending some time with a guy like Gene who lives this every day.
Yep.
You talk about a crash course in how to understand what you're seeing. It's a lot of times it's cheaper to hire somebody who knows what they're doing than to go spend months driving to the lake, burning up the gas, putting all the time in to try to figure it out yourself, when you can just go get a pro to kind of, pay the pro who's making a living doing this, and speed up your education a little more. When he talks about teaching the world to fish, that's at all kinds of different levels. And if you're looking to go from here to here, that's why you hire a guy. I told Gene, I said, one of these days I'm gonna get down there and pay him and go do this, because I want to get better at understanding what I'm seeing and whatnot as well.
Yeah.
So, pay for the experience. I mean, a guy like Gene, he's got food to put on the table as well, and he puts a lot of time and effort into this. You probably get out there, shoot a little video with him and have some fun, but
yep,
really
I got a guide trip. I got a guide trip on Guntersville tomorrow morning. So
yep. I want to when I come, I want to come to your fun lake. That's
we'll do some fun fishing there.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be the goal. I'd love to get down there like in the spring or sometime too, because my year is pretty much over. Work is going to murder me for the next 3 months, and that's fine. But I got 3 years till I retire.
Yeah.
And then
so to get back to the lake, another thing, the area that I was fishing was a drain, and I found these fish, this school, I call it a school, but this giant group of fish in an area that was further up this drain on Sunday, I believe, might have even been Saturday prior to the tournament.
Okay.
And there were some locals there that were catching them on little lipless crankbaits and stuff like that. And I marked a couple of waypoints watching them, and then came on down, and throughout the week I'd go back up in that area and I'd check it, and I'd also pay attention to what the water levels were doing by checking online, and the water levels were dropping about a half an inch a day. And each day I would go and check that school. They had moved a little bit further out, a little bit further into that deeper water that was allowed. So I started paying a real close attention to that area and found where the actual deeper channel was of this drain. And it wasn't over here where everybody was fishing. It was actually in trees, thick trees over here on the other side. And so I spent a lot of time looking at that stuff and starting through electronics, find these areas that I was looking for, and watching those areas being formed. One day they would be there, wouldn't be there, and the next day they'd be there because the fish have moved out and started to fan that area, and then so on and so forth. So by the time the tournament had started, they moved probably 400 yards, 500 yards.
Oh, wow.
And this drain, this is 100% a guess, but I'm guessing 5,000 acres of this lake when they drop the water, that 5,000 acres of that lake goes right into that draining, then goes out to the main river.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, it was wild seeing how, I mean, it was like, wow.
yeah. So there was a huge concentration of fish there. That's why Saturday was so hard for me with all those bass boats there beating those fish up.
Yep.
If you got in there and made a bunch of noise, it would shut down that whole area, that whole, small part of that area, wherever you were. You had to be very quiet, very careful about how you moved around. And so I just did as best as I felt I could on Saturday while all the bass boats were in there, knowing that Sunday I would probably have it all to myself. So
yeah, that's really cool. So it seems like, I mean, it seems like a lot of different fish were caught a lot of different ways, but you're throwing a little Nichols spinner bait. Did you did you try throwing a chatterbait or anything else, or is it just you're so in tune with that spinner bait that nothing else needs because you're catching what you need to catch?
I was getting hung up too much with the chatterbait.
Yeah.
If you hit anything hanging off of a cypress tree, any little twig or stick or root, root, whatever they call
I
them,
learned that
not the
lesson
knees,
too.
but
Yeah.
I'm talking about the little tentacles that were coming off you get hung up. And I was like, I can't do a chatterbait as much as I want to do a chatterbait. I can't.
Yep.
And Guillermo 2 years ago for the national championship was throwing a white bladed spinnerbait.
No.
And it was actually gosh, why am I forgetting the name of it? Old school. The company's been around a long time, but it was one that had a little bit of pink and orange and yellow in the skirt.
Yep.
But it was a white bladed chatterbait, and I've fished those before, but the blades always hit each other, and they would get out of sync. And I don't like a spinnerbait that gets out of sync. I know it still
Right.
catches fish, but me personally, thinking if
Yep.
I lose contact with those blades, I feel like I've got a bite and I'm setting the hook on nothing.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so I knew that the Nichols had a front blade that was a kicker blade that was a little bit smaller, and it didn't get hung up. They didn't bang each other as much. So I started throwing this one, and I caught every fish in practice on one, but maybe a couple, and then I caught every fish in the tournament but one on this spinnerbait. So
it'd be hard to put it down if you're just wearing them on. I'm just like, I just need the one rod. That's it.
you just had to get it within their strike zone and bump something. Or I also figured out the second day, I always had a trailer hook on it, but the second day, the first two fish came on that trailer, and I'm like, they're short striking. And so what do I need to do to make sure they get it in their mouth? And I realized that you either had to bump the tree or whatever piece of cover they were on, or you had to reel it past it 3 or 4 times, 2, 3, 4 turns past that area or that cover, and then kill it. And they would hit it on the way down, because going past it, you would pull them away, and then they'd start tracking it. And you had to give them a couple of seconds to track it, and then just to stop in the flutter, they would hit it. But if you just steady reeled it, you weren't going to catch that fish.
I got you. Okay.
So,
man, oh man, oh man. So, at what point did you think, man, I feel like I could be in the top 5? Did you have any thoughts in your mind what was going to happen when you got to the awards?
not at all. Not at all. So when before the leaderboard was shut off, I was tied for 3rd with Jody Queen.
Yeah.
And I was in 3rd, Jody was in 2nd. But he had me with big fish. We had a tie. I was like, man, I just need a 1/4 inch upgrade. Yeah. All I need is a 1/4 inch upgrade. And I caught that 1/4 inch upgrade going back to my area. And I was like, okay, now I just need one more 20. I just need a 19.5 or a 20 just to feel comfortable with being in the top 5. Because there's always going to be a couple of people that submit last, or there's always going to be this or that. And the bass were biting. We were getting big ones the last hour of every day.
It turned on right there at the end. I mean,
exactly.
I caught a 20 on a frog, with an hour to go, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go.
Yep. So with a half hour to go, I'm sitting in a spot looking at one of those beds, had pulled my active target out, put it in the water, had 2 fish swimming around these beds that I was trying to force to bite. I stopped for a second. I was like, man, I'm spinning out. I was like, I'm really am not focused and stuff like that. So I said a quick prayer, asked the Lord to help me focus. And I stopped and I said, and I thought to myself, I was like, what am I doing? And I picked up that active target. I popped it down on its holder. And I said, I'm going to hit every stump that I possibly can in the next 30 minutes, or it was, whatever, next 45 minutes or 30 minutes, however long is it till the tournament's over. I'm just going to hit everything that I can hit. Well, the problem is the current pushing through there and the wind kind of shifted a little bit, and it scattered all of that Sylvania that was in the area, and made it impossible to hit almost 2/3 of the trees and the logs and everything that was in that area. So I had to pick and choose which ones I could hit, because these, spinnerbait is just going to get hung up in it every time you touch them.
Yep.
And so I was going on out, and it was lines out was 4:15 or 3:15, 3:15. Yep. So it was right at 3 o'clock, and I saw this gnarly stump out in the middle with nothing around it, no Sylvania. So I threw out past it, brought it along. I barely hit it with the spinnerbait, and it went sideways. And I'm like, jerking hard, and I'm fishing it on a Cast King rod. This is I think they're like $80 rods, dude. The Speed Demon Pros, and I was throwing it on the swim bait rod, which is a medium, basically kind of a moderate fast rod, but it says medium fast.
Okay.
And so it's got a little bit of flex, but enough muscle to be able to turn fish and keep them out of the stumps. And that's what I ended up doing, was just fighting him and keeping him out from going back into the stump or any of the other ones around there. And got him in the net. And I'm live streaming the whole thing. I had my TikTok live stream on the whole time.
Oh, there we go.
And so, dude, I'm sitting there talking to the two people that are still watching the tournament. Like, dude, I might have just won this thing. Math is not my strong suit. I'm dyslexic with numbers, so I'm like, I'm definitely in the top 3.
Yeah,
but I might have squeaked out and won this thing. And I was just like, I don't know, but this fish might be worth a lot of money. And so I measured it 20.5 inches, put it back in the water, and finished out fishing. And I was just like, I don't know. I was like, I'm just going to go and try to figure it out. And of course I got the text, be at the award ceremony. And I'm like, great. At least I know I'm in the top 25 or however many people were there.
Yeah.
And just let the rest be, and so it was pretty neat. Yeah, and the thing is my goal wasn't winning. It was just to catch the most and the best fish that I could catch at the time, and like you said, get in the top 5, so I didn't have to worry about it. So
yeah, I know I normally try to go to the award ceremony, but because it was kind of farther south between two lakes, and we were all wore out as it was.
Yep.
I was in the chat in the live, what we were all watching online. Of course, everybody in this chat here tonight, it was in the squad chat, just yapping away. And then we're like, Gene's one of the last 3 left. This could get interesting. And of course, when they called out number 2 and we knew you were the last man standing, it was just like, there we go. There's our boy right there.
Oh, dude, that's nuts. I know. And I went back and crunched the numbers, and I think before I caught that fish, I was tied for 4th with Jody.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Or something like that. I was either in 3rd or 4th. And so if I was in 4th, that means that fish was worth $9,100.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So Luke wants to know, how do you find out info for your guide service? Maybe interested in an electronic class.
So it's under the charter part of Fishing Chaos.
Yep.
So if you go into Fishing Chaos, you go to charter, you can find me pretty easy. I have shut it off for the holidays, but you can see what see what's available and stuff, or what I offer. It's just you're not going to be able to book it until I turn it back on. So I just have I keep getting bookings. Like I've got one tomorrow, which is fine. I'm going to have a blast doing it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I've got so much that's I got a backlog of things I need to get done. So I've had to shut it off so I could get stuff done around the house, and then I'll turn it back on. Wintertime is probably not the best time just because of liability and that kind of stuff. But, you know, definitely come next year, I'll start pushing it again.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we think you've earned some well-deserved time off. October was really busy.
Yeah, and I'm still going to fish the Georgia State Championship. I'm just not going to fish it as serious as I was. I'm going to fish it mainly because the top 10% qualify there. So the more people that sign up for it, so I'm going to sign up and I'll pay the entry fee just so to make sure we got numbers so more people can qualify.
Help some other people out as well too. When is that tournament?
The week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, okay.
It'll be awesome, dude. It's going to be on, you know, Hartwell, like I said, I'm not friends with that lake at all, but if it fishes like any other blueback herring lake, it shouldn't be too bad. I fished Clark's Hill for 15 years, which is basically a oversized Hartwell.
Yeah. So we see your check back there. You want to show the fans the big blue trophy? That's the one cool thing. That's the one cool thing about the opens like this with the kayak fishing series is for the rest of your life, no matter what, you'll always be a Bassmaster champion. And there it is right there. Yeah. And I say this, Duke and the boys at Catch do an amazing.
Oh yeah, dude. This thing is
job on those things.
It's solid aluminum, dude. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
But I'm in the process of remodeling my office and my background. So it's gonna look, you know, it's going to have a spot for sure. I've just got a little bit of extra stuff. Now with this little extra money, I can buy the cabinets that I wanted to put back here and that kind of stuff.
So Slyfox wants to know, is your TikTok FlukeMaster? I think
it's like actually FlukeMaster 1 because a college kid took my name when TikTok was new, and now he's in his mid-20s, and I can't get him to respond to a Facebook message. And I've asked him multiple times to delete that inactive deal so I can have my name back. I may just have a lawyer get a hold of him and
get a hold of him. Yeah.
I mean, you know, because that's my brand. And
100%. And if for those, if you're on TikTok and if you're not, it'd be worth watching. Gene has actually added Starlink to his kayak so he can start live streaming on TikTok.
Yep, no matter where I'm at.
When he's on the water. So I'm not saying I would have pulled that up and tried to chase you down when we were on.
Good luck. You wouldn't have been able to. The camera boat couldn't even find me.
I would have been lost as soon as I got on that lake where I was for the first half an hour, and then I figured out what the channel resembles. It would be interesting to be on that lake when the water's up, but
I've been there.
Incredible too. On TikTok, do the videos like save so you can go back and rewatch them, or is it just if you're only there live is when you can see them? Is it like Twitch, or do you have to be watching live when it happens?
I think you have to be watching live, but I haven't double checked that. I know that I can. If I got to pull the phone out that I was using to live and see if it saved the footage from that. I do have the footage because I had my back camera on too at the same time.
Okay.
But that's all. My son's got all that. We're going to do a really cool edit and a good storytelling for it.
Cool. That'll be awesome to see. I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm just glad that I remembered to stop the camera to save the footage because I was so beside myself that I didn't even know I'd done that. So I checked it when I got home and I was like jumping up and down cheering that I got that one fish.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I honestly can't wait. I can't wait till you get those edited just to see. It's always fun. I love the tournament recaps. I love seeing what other people did to kind of figure it out. It helps teach everybody. And I always get this, from guys around here. Oh, you're making these videos and other people can go see what you're doing that you're competing against. And I'm not a pro. I don't care. If I help somebody go where I fished and they caught a fish there, did my job.
They still got to catch them.
Yeah, 100%.
They still got to catch them. I mean, when Guillermo won 2 years ago, he was fishing totally different types of areas. He wasn't fishing what I was fishing. That area did not finish in the top 5. It's all about, you still got to go. That's why I tell people, I say, if you want to come and like the lake I fish right down the road, if you're not fishing that lake in Georgia State challenges and, online tournaments, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time that complain about it, I'm like, come on over. There's a campsite on the lake. You can stay there. I'll meet you out at the lake and you can come out and sit next to me and watch me catch fish all day.
Yeah.
Because you still have to go and catch the fish.
Yep. 100%.
You know, I'll even point out exactly where you need to cast, and you might or might not catch the fish. You know, and that's not me being cocky. It's me understanding the lake and knowing what the
100%.
fish do and how they react and that kind of stuff. So,
Yep. So while it's entertaining for us to watch, there's still so much more going on.
yep.
You know, that day, that environment, the sun, the moon, the rising, lowering of the water.
Oh, and that sun made a huge difference there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you know, I was also one of those taking advantage of the fact that the canopy from the cypress trees, the bass weren't on the stumps. They were actually in the
In the
canopy
shade.
And I would set up behind the cypress tree where the sun was on the front of the cypress tree, and I was throwing past the shade and bringing it parallel to the shade.
Yep.
And was getting bit. I didn't catch any giants doing that, but I caught a lot of fish doing that.
Yep. Yeah.
You know,
It was a fun. Yeah. I mean, having been there once before, I know I can go back there and do a little better. You know, it was still a blast. But again, that's fishing. I mean, that's the enjoyment that we get out of it too. But brother, man, I told you I'd keep you for about an hour and let you get back to it because we still both got the sun from the
that's permanent
season.
for me, bro.
I know it never. I still love going into the office and they're like, you and this, and I was like, it might be gone by February. Then we started all over again too.
Yep.
They probably think I just go hit a tanning bed with my sunglasses and hat on just to jack with them, but no, it's what it is. It is what it is. Well, Gene, I appreciate you coming on and talking with us tonight. It's always a pleasure. It's always fun listening, hearing the stories, but it's even more. It's truly even more for those of us who watch YouTube a lot to watch a guy who makes content and then who goes out and fishes and then is now the dude who gets to, you know, forever hold that blue trophy. And, you know, hey, a YouTuber knows how to fish. Imagine that.
I better practice what I preach. Dadgum.
But I mean, it's fun because, you know, you've got a large fan base that have been following you last 10, 12 years. I mean, and for them to see their guy go out and be like, yeah, I can do this for real too. And then
that's still that kind of is a surreal thing when a couple of guys have responded to me and said that they were literally jumping up and down cheering. I was like, no, that's what you do for Georgia Bulldogs when they win the national championship. You don't do that for
kind of like an Indiana Hoosiers fan who actually has a football team for once in their lifetime. It's like, what is this?
Who can win a game?
Oh my God. Yeah. We're just normally everybody's whipping posts, you know, it's like, holy cow. So who knows? We're used to that basketball.
Yeah.
This foosball? What?
Yeah.
Here in Indiana? What?
It's foreign.
Oh Lord. I tell you this much. I can't wait for Saturdays from now on too. It's been getting better and better.
Yep. Well, sure. I want to talk a little bit about sponsorship stuff before we go. But
you go right ahead and want to hear about it.
Got to pay the bills, but
yes,
sir. You guys, a lot of you guys know that I signed with Kayak this last year, and it was kind of I was a little reserved just because of Kayak's history, and they know that, and I know that, and everything else. What I love is the fact that they really continually want to keep getting better and better, but because they own their own factory in China, they're able to have a lot more control over the quality, over the components, and everything else. And so I've watched them over the years be able to just get better and better and better. So I was very comfortable to a point getting their rods and reels and stuff like that. And being able to use them. I use their $130 reel to throw $165 trick shads.
Yeah. The one you went swimming for.
The one I went swimming for when you and I were talking on the phone. And so they just make a really, this is the new one. I haven't put this one in the water yet, so I don't know, but this little purple thing, it's the I can't remember the name of it. Give me a second. My eyes aren't working. Oh, the Royal Legend is what they call Royal Purple. It's a color shifting. It's the prettiest reel I've ever seen, but it does feel good. In my hand, it feels good. But before I give, opinions about any sponsor stuff, I'll put a month or two into this,
right?
Before I start talking about the quality of it and that kind of stuff. But the ones that I have done are they're great. They really do. I can beat the crap out of them and not worry about them for sure. The rods, a lot of them are a little soft, but they're really good cranking rods, really good moderate rods. I'm helping them work on some medium heavies, what I call Florida rods, ones that I can fish super aggressive, and I have enough backbone to do things that I fish, like I fish down in Florida or in Guntersville and that kind of stuff. So,
well, and the only way companies like that get better is by bringing on actual pros who can provide real input to help them improve products over the year. I mean, you've done that with Bonafide and other companies. I mean, same.
What aggravates me is all the narrow-minded people that are like, well, once they're bad, they're always bad. They were bad. Da, 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 da. I'm like, no, dude. People, when the owner cares, when the owner literally cares about quality, but still want to keep the price down, then you got something that you can build on, and you can.
And especially with economies these days, when not everybody's got silly money to go blowing on rods and reels, but still wants to fish.
Yep.
If you can get some good quality gear at an affordable price, that's and you've had those, there's those brands that make those $40-$60 combos that you find in your local, Wally Worlds and everywhere else. But if you're coming out with something that's higher quality, is closer to that price point, you can put better gear in people's hands and they'll be perfectly happy with it too. And they know they're getting the best bang for the buck they can.
Yeah. I've got a $40 reel right here that they sent, that I asked them to send me all of their, $30, $40, $50, $60 reels that I'm going to put line on and go out and fish for the next month. And that, because people keep asking me, what about this reel? What about that reel? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't fished them yet. Well, that's
watch his TikTok and you can see him testing them out live. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's the only the TikTok side of his only downside to tournament fishing is I don't want to live stream my practice days, and I don't want to live stream, the first day of the tournament, because then I'll have company on the second day.
Oh yeah, Gramps would have been all over. Hey, what's up, Gene?
Yeah, exactly. I'd have slashed your tires. But yeah, dude, I love doing those. I've got some bugs to get out of them and try to figure out how I want to do it. Everybody says they want the chesty mount, but there's not a good foam chesty mount out there that you can set the hook
when you wear a PFD and all that. It's hard to, even when you do it for just regular filming, it's never easy to keep it kind of centered, focused, and you have to deal with a phone, so that's a whole other different thing too. So
yeah, and I've been doing that my whole career, being the first at doing things and having to figure out how to make it work, and so
next thing you know, you have a mobile studio where you can transition from one shot to another, and
I'm working on it.
I knew you would be.
I got to figure out how to get my iPad to do it, and I can do it.
there you go. Any other new gear that you've been playing with you want to talk about?
Let me think. The XTR I'm picking up in a couple of weeks, as soon as I slow down and have time to go get it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm gonna stare at it for a while to figure out how I want to use it, just because I just don't know. I don't know where it's gonna fit in my fleet and in my ideas. But Lowrance is coming out with the new what are they calling them? They got live scope on a lower priced.
I saw, was that the Eagle maybe?
Yeah, the Eagle.
Yep.
Yep. And so I'm supposed to be getting one of those here in the next 2-3 days, and then it'll take me about a week or two to rig it up and get it ready to go.
Of people like to hear your thoughts on that too, just because if it gives you even half of what the actual does at a way lower price point, man, that could be a game changer for a lot of people who are still rocking those Garmin Striker 4s, their little bitty 5-inch units. You maybe get them something in a 9-inch where they have, because I tell people I use forward facing, but I'm not like Hamner where I pinging a minnow and catching fish because I'm seeing them. I'm looking for fish on structure and things like that. It's like, okay, here's I found something on side scan. Let me go see what it is. And are there fish down there? To me, that at least give me, okay, I know there's something there.
Yeah.
And, as you get more dialed in, but if you have a unit that's at that price point, to get even more people kind of understanding and getting a little more education as they're out there in their kayak, just makes things a little bit easier.
Yep. Yep, sure does.
And then I know that is it Motor Guide that's going away and Lowrance is taking over?
So it's
In
basically Motor Guide. If I could explain it this way, Lowrance and Motor Guide were competing, for motors,
Yeah.
for troll motors, and so they just basically just went, your Motor Guide now is Lowrance.
So we should see like a Lowrance version of
Yeah,
a
all the trolling
XI3
motors
CNA.
are exactly, all the trolling motors are now under the Lowrance name and not the Motor Guide name. Motor Guide didn't go out of business; they just got dissolved, and I've seen that happen so many times in the fishing industry. They just
Now, do you ever think and this was something I was throwing at bringing up when I was part of the Old Town Pro staff, because that's all Johnson Outdoors, Humminbird, and Minn Kota and all that. Do you ever see the day where we have in a kayak where you have a bow mount motor and you have your maps up and you said, here's a waypoint, and you hit it and your head unit is talking to your trolling motor and taking you where you want to go?
it already does that.
Do we have that in kayaks yet?
Yeah, I got it in mine.
Okay.
When I plug it in, right, you look at the XI3, you see that little cord that sticks out of your XI3.
Oh yeah,
that plugs into your fish finder, and then you get the right. There's a couple of different things you have to buy for, and I don't know if you can get it now that Motor Guide's gone, but I'm sure it's gonna go over to that. But and then you just basically you can run a route. You can say, I want you to run this route, boom, 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 and then you can kick back and go to sleep.
Yeah, that I would love to see that, like wireless, where it's just they're paired,
and that's the only reason why I don't run it very often, is because I have to rig it all. I have to wire it all up, and I have to.
Yeah, got you.
It's just an extra thing that I don't really use as enough to be able to spend the time.
Yeah, got you.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else you want to talk about before we get out of here for the night?
Let me think. We talked about Bonafide. Yak attacks. So one of the things I did, one of the cool things, the side stagers.
Yeah, those track packs.
No, the side stagers that hold
the rod holders.
Four rods.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand those things because they just got in the way.
Yeah.
They're long. They stick out the side of your boat. You can't paddle when you need to. You got to move them out of the way when you paddle. Everything else. Well, I broke out the Sawzall and cut them son of guns in half.
Oh, okay.
They only hold 2 rods.
Got you.
And I use them the entire tournament and all the practice and love them because it's a lot more suited to be able to just store your follow-up rod or, stick a rod you want to get to real quick right there. And then to paddle, you just pull the rods up, put them in the rod holders behind you and rotate those things out of the way. And then you can paddle.
I got you.
Away. And then, I just think big enough to hold 4 was too much. And I literally called Yak Attack in the middle of this, sent them the picture and said, make them half the size and you'll sell more of them, that kind of stuff. So
I like the idea of a quick grab. Yeah.
That's the stuff I love about that. I like to do in the industry is be able to mess around with things and make them work better. And then go to the companies and say, make them please. So we can sell them. And, sometimes they listen to me.
But I mean, that's the way to do it though, too.
Yep. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not sponsored by Nichols, but this is a daggum good spinnerbait. It's and like I said, I caught everything but one. One of the fish was caught on a frog, and it was a discontinued Zoom frog. They don't make them anymore. They're $10 for 3 of them. They're expensive as all get out. Yeah. And I guard them with my life. They're a soft plastic frog, kind of like they're a toad is basically what they are, but they last forever. But I saw this one fish blow up just a little bit on a cypress tree in a foot of water underneath some Sylvania. Threw out 2 turns of the handle, and he kind of came out and he tried to hit it through the Sylvania, couldn't get it. So I 2 more casts, I threw it out and I brought it to the edge of the Sylvania and just set it there. And it just went and it sucked it in, and so much so I didn't even know he bit. I saw him bite, but I was like, does he have it? And he was swimming off with it, and I set the hook down. It was actually one of the ones that was a 19.5 incher. So it's one of those that was part of my final limit, which was pretty cool.
Gotcha. Now, do you work with any like soft plastics companies, or just use whatever you want to use? And
I do things for companies that are like friends that we don't have no contracts. So Z-Man and Missile Baits and
yeah,
that kind of stuff. I have a lot of friends in the industry because I've been doing this for so long, where I'm
oh
just
yeah,
like, hey, send me your new stuff. Let me play around with it. That new tungsten jackhammer that you heard about, the whole,
I was throwing one the whole time. I
or
had a
not
black and
jackhammer,
blue,
tungsten chatterbait. It's the Evo chatterbait.
the
It's all
tungsten
tungsten.
Evo. Yeah.
Dude, those things are so sweet. I
Oh
did a
yeah.
video, launched a video a couple of weeks ago about it. And
Yep.
the fact that they seem to start up even faster than the jackhammer under slower speeds,
See,
is just
I
cool.
ended up giving away a bunch of it's like when the first Evos came out and they had problems with snaps and they had problems with blades coming off the heads. I was like, I can't trust them.
Mhm.
So I gave a bunch of them away. But now the tungsten ones, they've fixed the clip, they've fixed,
Yeah.
whatever the other issue was. But because one of the things we always hear going to Caddo Bistineau, black, blue, bring everything black, blue, bring all the black and blue, everything that you own. So what did I bring? A whole bunch, probably 6 black, blue, tungsten Evos, and that's what I tested. And that was every chatterbait fish that's what I caught it on.
Yep.
I could throw like a green pumpkin trailer on it to give it a little bit of but in that
Mhm.
stained water, and I couldn't get a hold of any white ones, or I would have grabbed some of those too. But the color combos on those new tungsten Evos and even the Evos, they do it's a really nice mix, because I know the one Abby was talking was that Bama Craw, but it looks a whole lot like the Beehite Delight jackhammer in that like
Yep.
bluegill color.
Yep. So except it's
And
got a copper blade, which is
yep.
one of the spinner baits that I had locked and loaded and ready was a spinner bait that I had made that had copper blades
I
for
got you.
those lakes specifically.
Yep.
One
Yeah.
of them is called the Bistineau Special, and it's one that a local showed me 5 years ago for Bistineau, and
Yeah, I got you.
it's got copper blades, and it makes a difference sometimes.
Yep.
But
Sure does.
yeah, the new Evos are great. And like I said, they're not sponsors; they're just buddies of mine. I would love to be a fly on the wall when they name things there, because knowing Joey and all those guys, dude, that's got to be the biggest, funniest party I've ever, just to name stuff. Because those guys are a hoot anyway. But
Oh yeah.
man, I told him, I said, please invite me for one of your naming get-togethers.
Be a good time for sure.
Yeah, good company.
Well, brother, man, I will let you get out of here again.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you for joining us tonight. And man, congrats. Like I said, there
Thanks.
is no better. There's a few brothers in Christ that we have out there that spread, they live by the example we talk about. You, Matt, and a few others, you exemplify what a brother in Christ is like out in the world and in the place, and leading the way for a lot of the rest of us who it's awesome. And so I love seeing blessings like that come down on guys, to me, who really, I hate saying deserve, but put yourself in the right position, right place, right time,
Yeah.
doing the right things, and believing the way you do. And I love seeing good people win. And so you had, like I said, the whole Freedom Squad was losing their minds when they called your name, and we knew it was you. And it's like, that's our dude, that's our guy. We met him.
Yep.
It's hard to believe that we first met you in person at the KBFNC back at Kentucky Lake like 3 years ago. And the fact that I can, text you, call you, chit chat at any time. Gene's not one of these guys, once you get to know him, if you call him, he's like, I'm not going to ignore the call and call you back 6 weeks later.
You're the one that you're the reason I snagged that trick shad in that fish attractor that I had to swim after. I was on the phone with you and you distracted me.
He's like, I gotta go swimming now.
8 feet deep, but I got my trick shad back.
But he got it back. It was a special run. You can't even find them. Yeah, so I get it. Oh, dude, but I'll let you get out of here again. Thanks for popping on with us tonight. Everybody, thanks for chatting along and asking questions tonight and watching this. And then for those who are listening on the podcast later, be sure to review it on whatever platform that you're listening on. And again, we'll get out of here. But as always, get outside when you can and make some memories, one cast at a time. You might end up next to a guy like this guy over here. Catch some fish. Good night, everybody.
See ya.